Welcome to the Drive-By Entrepreneur Podcast, which exists to bring current and compelling content to entrepreneurs and influencers of small to mid-sized organizations. I'm John Frank, fellow entrepreneur and the owner of Third Road Management. And with this podcast, we will connect with a variety of experienced and dynamic individuals to shed some light on both the art and science of entrepreneurship. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our sponsors. First, my very own Third Road Management, a company that brings fractional CFO services to small and mid-sized organizations by revolutionizing the CFO suite. We'd also like to thank Two Hound Red, a brewery and restaurant located in Glen Ellen, Illinois, that is focused on creating classic, innovative beer and food. And finally, we'd like to thank NWC Media, which provides inbound marketing technology, project workflow management, and efficiency consulting to organizations of varied sizes, who is also the producer of the Drive-By Entrepreneur Podcast. All right, Joe Farinella, Lou Farinella.
Johnny.
Welcome to the podcast. This is exciting. Good to reconvene with you guys. We'll get into that a little bit more later. I like to start out just kind of making sure to level set. Sometimes somebody's first time tuning into the podcast, but I always like to say it for that reason. But the reason why I do this is it's designed to bring current and compelling content to entrepreneurs and influencers of small to mid-sized organizations, right? So you guys are entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur. We orbit around entrepreneurship, and the bankers, the lawyers, the financial advisors, and things like that we all know and trust orbit as well. And so it's always good to get somebody's perspective, because you never know when you might learn something unique. Originally, I loved this podcast called How I Built This, Kai Raz on NPR. And that was sort of one of a few probably inspirations for it. But I interact with small to mid-sized organizations all day, every day. And I feel like those stories are just as compelling as the huge ones. So that's what we're here for. All right. So in addition to being my old classmates and fraternity brothers and friends, we'll keep the fraternity stories to a minimum.
Yeah.
Here, just to
Same for the later segments.
Different podcasts.
Yeah, right.
Different
Very
podcasts.
much, yeah.
You guys are obviously real brothers in real life.
True.
So just to make sure that it's not a coincidental Farinella brothers meeting.
Brothers squared, as we used to call it.
Brothers squared. All right.
Yeah.
We'll do with it.
Some good handshakes.
Yeah.
Very good. But recently you guys have joined forces, as, working in business together. But prior to that, you guys had totally different career paths. And so I thought it would be good for each of you guys to talk a little bit about yourself, take me on your journey throughout your career. Lou, maybe we'll start with you, because I know that ultimately led, to joining forces with Joe and what he was doing. So you go first, and then we'll piggyback and go over to Joe.
Should we go to the beginning?
Start wherever you like.
All the way, man, all the way.
So,
we grew up in Des Plaines, so, fairly locally here. Both of us went to University of Illinois in Champaign, where we met you, John.
Yep.
But then, from a work perspective, I worked at Ernst & Young for 2 years in consulting. Traveled all over the country and the globe for a couple of years. And then after that, I worked for the Crown family, super wealthy family. They own a bunch of businesses across a bunch of different sectors. Worked for 13 years for the Crowns. 5 of those years was in their private equity acquisitions group. And then 8 of those years I spent working at one of their portfolio companies, happened to be in the food processing equipment space. And when I was at that portfolio company, I did a number of different things, from acquisitions. We acquired a couple businesses in Europe, France and Netherlands, for example. We were expanding globally, so we opened an office in Brazil, so kind of helped to lead up a lot of these initiatives. But then I led our aftermarket parts group for a while, so that was more of a sales type of role. And then at one point they asked me to be finance director for the company, and at that time it was the first time I'd ever worked in an accounting group at all. So I was like, hey, I don't know the first thing about how a payables function works, but they're like, don't worry about it, you'll figure it out. It'll be cool. So did that for a few years as well, and then at that point, I started getting people calling me, reaching out, private equity backed companies or private equity companies themselves, asking me to be CFO of companies. So it was for me, it was a great, good move going into the kind of more pure accounting type of role. Kind of set me up to be, an executive and kind of that number two at some organizations. I had 3 CFO jobs, all different private equity backed companies in different industries. Had two very successful outcomes, exits, and then after my last one was kind of looking to do something different. Spent some time actually looking to buy a business myself that I could just buy, own most of it and try to grow. And then at the same time was kind of talking to Joe, and he was getting excited about what he was doing. I'll let him talk more about that piece, but he asked me to, hey, would you think about coming over full time, working with us? And I was kind of like a board member, if you will, from the beginning of the company. But I was like, hey, I'll help you out for a little bit, just to, you're my brother first and foremost, so I got some free time. I'll help you out, and then we'll see where it goes. And then as I started kind of digging in, it's like, wow, this business has some serious legs, and let's do it. I'm all in. Let's take it to the next step and try to scale this thing. So that's kind of my medium version. I'll let Joe go.
Good duration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A percentage of the podcast, 2% of the podcast, maybe.
And that business is the Beverage Incubators.
Correct.
I did not say it at the front end, but why don't you lead us?
Yeah.
We got Lou's background, your background. We both started out in chemical engineering.
That's right. We did.
One of us graduated.
One of us stuck with it. Yeah.
Stuck with it is a very nice way of saying that.
I did one semester as an engineer too in civil, John.
You guys couldn't hang, man.
Nah, me and John saw this. We saw the right path.
Yeah.
We saw the right path.
There have been points actually prior to starting my own business where I was like, maybe I should have went finance. Like I looked at you guys, having all the success, but yeah.
But here we are.
Here
you are. So engineer by trade.
Yeah. So I've been in food and beverage research and development roles for 23 years. So my first job was at PepsiCo, actually Quaker Oats, and then Pepsi bought them shortly thereafter.
Yep.
But so in first 10 years or so, we're very focused on engineering and scaling up, new innovation products. After 10 years, I really had an itch to do product development. Like I enjoy kind of the blend of art and science to actually doing the formulation work.
Yep.
So took a role where I was leading up all the domestic innovation for Gatorade for 4 years. Then took a VP of R&D job at a smaller company doing formulation. Learned a lot about really all aspects of the industry in that role. Like we worked on a ton of projects and just got a lot of exposure to different elements of the industry. And after 8 years doing that, I really was just ready to do something new.
Yep.
Lou, he mentioned being kind of like a silent board member, but he'd been encouraging me to kind of go off on my own for a long time because at my old job, I really was kind of at the nexus of everything. Like when your company does product development, like the person that's head of R&D is normally like pretty engaged. So, So anyway, 3 years ago, started doing it on my own. I was in my basement. I converted my basement into basement's even a loose term. It was kind of like a first, story room. It was no bigger than
the lowest level of the home.
Yes, lowest level of the home. Literally for a while, I was just like a leather couch, a couple steel tables, and I was doing it on my own. So like, I knew I wanted to give it a try. And the first like 5 people I talked to, this is going back like 2019, like in December, because I was like, well, let's just see how it goes. And if it gets legs, then, I'll stick with it. And all 5 of those people, I was very upfront. I was like, listen, I don't have a lab. I don't have anything yet. I don't even have a beaker.
Yeah.
But if you sign out with me, like I guarantee you I can get this done.
Yeah.
And
And
I've
I
been
will
doing
buy
it
a
for
beaker.
2 decades. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beakers are cheap.
Several beakers.
Yeah. So no, it started, humble beginnings with just me like doing everything, which honestly now I think was really important because there's a lot of people with my years of experience, but I don't know that they have, like the detailed experience where you're actually doing everything. Like when I have to label 30 different bottles in my own handwriting in order to ship a sample to a customer. Like you start to think of innovative ways to do stuff like that, you know? So yeah, I'm fortunate to have, started at a really big company, then went to kind of a smaller medium, and then just me.
Yep.
And now we've grown it to, we just hired a VP of R&D to help out there, but he's our 9th employee. And things are going great.
It's awesome. Yeah, I feel like entrepreneurs are born, in a way, like I always had it, I was always, there was never enough that I could learn at a given level. It was always like, okay, I got this now. What, I want this thing now. People would be like, okay, calm down. Like, because I was always like, okay, I want some more responsibility. I want that.
Yeah.
And I'm jokingly saying like, okay, calm down. But like at the same point in time, I just had this yearning to learn more, do more, be more directly responsible for stuff. And I think it's sort of an innate trait in a way.
Yeah. I think optimism is a big one too. Just like that belief that you can do it, that it'll turn out well, that you can do anything that you set your mind to, I think is a big one from my standpoint.
It's interesting because no joke, like, 10 years ago, like, you'd always hear people talking about entrepreneurship and how difficult it is and like all this, personality traits you need and everything. And I was always just like, whatever, man, like there's nothing special about that. And I also didn't really have a yearning to do it. But I think for me, at least, it was, it took 20 years to accomplish, everything that I could, like working for someone else.
Yep.
But it was also that point where I felt confident that I had something unique to offer.
Yep.
Like I picked up a lot of lessons over the years about how to do product development well and do it faster and, and provide great customer service. And like, I probably couldn't have started this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like
That's
I had
great.
to have all the experience and expertise, but.
Talk a little bit about who we serve, just in case some of the many millions of fans watching here have some beverages they want to develop.
That is a wonderful
so
idea.
we do, we talked about it a little bit, but anyways, we do beverage formulation for all different types of beverage, whether it be coffee products, protein drinks, energy drinks, sparkling waters, alcoholic beverages, non-alcoholic beverages. We develop beverages for people. So that can be from an entrepreneur, like I mentioned before, to mid-sized company to public company, all sizes of companies. It could be new to market beverages. It could be a cost optimization of a current beverage. It could be a tweak to a flavor or a taste of a beverage that you want to have. So that's kind of the basic service that we provide. And then we also supply flavors as well to people that might go into those beverages. So not only are we interested in doing a great project, but we're interested in the long-term success of our partners. And really, and we've kind of grown over time with, really no marketing effort whatsoever, just really straight word of mouth. And our mentality is, not just have a satisfied client, but have like a ecstatic client. Like we want people, telling their friends and telling their partners, like, hey, these guys were great. Like you should work with these guys. So that's kind of how we've grown that our business. And so we get a lot of referrals from, brands that might tell other brands, manufacturers that might tell their clients, because it's like, hey, these guys know what they're doing. Their formulations all work great. And then other just kind of partners in the industry or flavor companies, or that's kind of how we get our leads. And then we help those beverages. We help not only do the formulation, but also to scale up and make sure that they are able to scale to 1 million plus cans a year, sometimes tens of millions, and that they can efficiently do that. And it's a great product every single time, consistent off the line. So that's my mini commercial.
Well
you got
done.
anything to add?
Well, thanks for sharing your background, guys. That's it's exciting. I think it's queued up to be a wonderful conversation. So excited to dive in further. I usually have a few things that I want to hit on. Some are like, probably more in depth than others. But, one of the things I wanted to for sure hit on is, and I talk about this a lot on the show just because I feel like I think that a well thought out idea, whether it be a product or service, right? I always sort of like lean into this idea of having a unique value added approach, right? An example being a pizza, a pizza shop or whatever. It's like, well, there's lots of pizza shops. What makes yours unique? right? You know, and sure enough, there is, right? But like, what was the sort of aha moment, right, that you realized, okay, there is something here? You even alluded to it a minute ago.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, there is something here. This is a niche. And like, how do you feel like you and the beverage incubators, like, kind of fill in this void, so to speak, in the marketplace?
Yeah. So it's interesting because I think at the end of my prior two, career stints, I reached a point where I knew that the work could be done better, but there were various hurdles, kind of impacting things and like getting in the way. So, like at a big company like Pepsi, there's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of,
Right.
CYA sort of mentality where they don't want to take risks.
Yep.
And it was frustrating. And that's kind of why I ended up leaving that job. And then, fast forward to my new role, or I'm sorry, the role at my previous company. When I started there, I was like, wow, like we're really doing some groundbreaking stuff. Like this is really like the speed and efficiency with which we developed was a lot better than my old job.
Yep.
But, so then after 8 years go by, like I spent a lot of time on process, on like org structure, like how to do things, more efficiently, period.
Yep.
But, towards the end of that 8-year stint, like similar kind of story where it was like, there's definitely ways to do this better.
Yeah.
And a lot of the hurdles were not even technical hurdles. It was just like, again, kind of like bureaucracy. But I'm rambling a little bit, but I think that the big realization for me was I know that this work can be done better, faster, and with a better customer experience. And I guess I'm hesitating a little because I don't want to like denigrate like our competitors.
Yeah, for sure.
But I do think when you really focus on the work and you bring decades of experience, you can do it faster.
Yeah.
And I think, starting when I was doing all the work myself again, like for my new company, there were a lot more realizations to, ways to do this more efficiently. But I think it's quality of work, but it's also from a customer service standpoint. Yep. I feel like a lot of our competitors are just very like stale and it's boring.
Speed to market.
They don't.
Yeah.
But there's so we put a lot of emphasis on establishing personal connection with our customer. Yeah. We're extremely transparent in the work that we do. We try to explain, everything to the point where, our best projects, like our customers learn a lot about the technical stuff and they can almost suggest things for us because we've kind of brought them into the process.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the things for me is having a focus on something. Like we do beverage formulation all day, every day. So historically people would develop, they might bring beverages to market by maybe going to a flavor company or they go to a manufacturer like a canner or a bottler to develop their beverage. But they don't do that all the time, or they're focused across many different industries. Or like I said, when you go to a manufacturer, then that manufacturer may own your formulation. You can't move it anywhere. You're kind of stuck with them. So there's a variety of reasons why like kind of the traditional methods have issues. And so for us, like being hyper focused on beverage development is definitely a big differentiator, and it's just a better approach in our opinion for people coming to market with a beverage, or people doing new line extensions, whether it be an entrepreneur who's never done this before, or whether it's a large company. Like we talk to, global beverage companies and they're like, hey, our R&D is too slow. It takes us too long. Like we need new ways to do things. Like how can we work with you guys? And so it can be a supplement to even these big R&D organizations as well.
Yeah.
Well, one other thing I failed to mention, but huge differentiator is that by and large, like the vast majority of our competitors, like maybe when they initially talk to a customer, you'll talk to someone that knows something, that has some technical expertise. But when push comes to shove and the work starts, oftentimes it's going to someone that's a lot more junior.
Yeah.
Huge differentiator for us is like the experts are doing the work. So and that was the beauty of adding Lou, is that now I don't have to worry. I used to spend so much time doing horrible bookkeeping and like trying to invoice client. Like that's not my area of expertise.
Right.
now I'm able to focus almost 100% of my time on development.
Yep.
And we were also, thinking through like, how are we going to scale this and maintain that same technical excellence? Myself and two other of our senior technical people, like we each have like 20 years in the industry. Like any one of us would be, the technical expert at one of our competitors, but we have, a third of our company has like a tremendous amount of experience and expertise. And
Yep.
it's critical.
Have you thought about, I mean, I heard a couple of times that like as the development gets bigger, as the companies get bigger,
Mhm.
the speed to market, the agility, all that kind of stuff slows down. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
mentioned that you guys, that's an advantage for you now. Have you put any thought to like, how do you continue to maintain that being true as you guys continue
Yeah.
to scale and grow?
Yeah, absolutely. At some point it will become a challenge, I think. But the size we are now, I think we have quite a bit of runway to still maintain that like entrepreneurial spirit within our company, and that like that just love for the project and the work. I think we can maintain that for quite a ways. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it will be a challenge. I think like all businesses go through that, right? When your business too, John. I think right,
Yep.
like when you go from 3 employees to 6 to 9 to 15 to 30, like how do you maintain some of those things that make your company great? It can be difficult, but I think we've done a good job certainly till now, and I think we've got quite a bit of runway still to go. But yeah, that it's always a challenge, I think, for any young business.
Yeah.
I think the key is maintaining a relatively flat organization, but also making sure, like the big thing for me is like when the person working on the product is the person interfacing with the customer,
Yep.
that eliminates a lot of the ills of
Yep.
bigger
Mhm.
companies.
Well, you're
Because
talking about like a business development person that's a good salesperson that
Mhm.
doesn't have the technical expertise, where traditionally
yeah,
Yep.
technical people aren't necessarily the best salespeople, right? But in your case, your unique
Yep.
secret weapon
Right.
is that,
Yep.
you can talk
Yeah.
the talk
Right.
and walk
Yeah.
the walk.
Yeah. We have, Joe will be on a lot of client calls. Our VP of business development, a guy named Joe Lazar, has been an absolutely great hire for us and just a great person on our team. Is a great interface. Like he talks to the clients and then he understands the science as well, so he can help to
Yeah.
bridge that gap. Like I sit in on most of our sales related calls, and so like the three of us do quite a bit of that upfront work together. And so and we keep people super involved from the start and all the way down at the lab level
Yeah.
as well. And so I think having that team approach and having people that understand the science is from the get go is important.
Yeah, I mean, that alone right there is, I think, a huge advantage for us is that our customers are it's not even by and large, it's all the time talking to the person that's working on their project and that has the expertise.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, next topic, sort of related to all that. You guys intersecting
Mhm.
constantly, and you guys talked about this a little bit when you were talking about joining forces and stuff like that. Mixing business and family. Strong opinions, uh, for the most part, one way or the other. I've seen a lot of people do it very successfully. Others have been like, no, thank you.
yeah.
How did you guys sort of like, what was the process by which you guys were like, I think this works. Let's give it a shot. It's not going to ruin, Thanksgiving dinner or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how did you guys go about talking about that? And have you established anything like, hey, here's the boundary line is 5 p.m. on Friday or whatever it is?
Yeah. The nice thing is by design, we are working on very different things, so it's rare that there's ever, some major disagreement. It's like, Lou, you're the business expert, I'm the industry expert, and, there's some overlap there, but I think we definitely have our lanes. I don't know. It is a common saying like, oh, don't mix business with family.
Yeah, but
To me, it's all like people dependent and relationship dependent. Truthfully, our company has, well, it's me, Lou, our cousin works for us. One of our employees, his parents own the boat and the slip next to me. So I met like everyone that we have, if they're not family, I've known them for a really long time and just have a certain level of comfort and trust. It's very important to me. So honestly, like I never had any concerns. Like the timing was perfect because we were at a point where we not only could afford someone like Lou, but we needed someone like Lou. And in my mind, he was the best person I could possibly hire. And we still have, disputes now and then, but it's a lot more brotherly
They're
and
usually
friendly.
tic-tac items.
Yes,
They're
not.
they're non-important items. I don't think we ever really disagreed on anything like significant. But
Well,
it'll
a
just
lot
be
of times
like,
we actually agree, but we're just arguing for no reason.
yeah,
Like
That,
it happened at the
that
samples
sounds like
today.
brothers.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's never my fault, obviously, but sometimes that's the kind of
I'll take
mindset
the
you
blame.
need.
Yeah.
Well, people say that too about working with friends too. I mean,
Yeah.
and so like I had a really good experience working with a close friend of mine as well. And I think it worked. I've said before, like, I don't want to go ever work again for someone like I don't know, like just a random person. I think like having that inherent trust, I think is important for business. So I'm almost the opposite, where it's like, if I don't like know you or kind of have a connection, like I'm going to struggle maybe to want to work together. But I think one thing that's important for family working together, I think you have to. I think that we've always been close. It's just the two of us. We're 2 years apart. We grew up playing sports together. Baseball and hockey together. We went to college together, and we're in the same fraternity. And then we lived together after college for a bit. And so we were kind of always close. So I think having that closeness is an important thing when you're working together, because you can say, like, it's not meant to like hurt the other person if you say something that might piss them off or whatever the case might be. So I think that's important, like, to have that closeness established. And the second thing I would say is having mutual respect for the other person. So like, if you truly, I think people get in trouble where they don't have respect for each other. Like families I've seen it. I've worked for family businesses, and it's like, one family member maybe doesn't have a great opinion of the other one. And those are the people that really get into issues.
Or they don't trust them.
They don't trust them. Exactly. Yeah.
They don't think they're pulling their weight.
Exactly.
Any number of things.
Right. And you can always have that. But like, if you have that basis of like mutual respect, that goes a really long way. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, I respect this person, and so we can figure anything else out.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is that, if you can get it to work, the family and friend thing, which I think we have, it offers up a lot of benefits. Like, if we disagree on anything, like, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to tell each other right away. And that kind of extends to the rest of the team too. I think like, everyone at the company I've known for a considerable number of years. So there is this level of closeness, and that makes things run more efficiently. The other benefit I would say is the way we are with customers is just like the way we are, like, when we're working every day. It's a pretty, like, laid back environment where people are unfiltered. They can be themselves. We try to make it fun. Well, we do make it fun. I mean, it's
a fun industry. But
my guess is there's a TV with the Cubs game on.
There hasn't been. The Cubs have been so bad.
Yeah.
Actually, well, they were decent last year.
Yeah.
We need that more.
Now, we watch a lot of soccer in the office. There's a lot of soccer fans.
Oh, okay.
The
Football.
laboratory.
Football.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it wasn't a loaded question. I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth because
Mm-hmm.
it was just more like a topic that I think would be interesting to cover, because I've lived both in the world where I don't think it would be a good idea to have my wife ever work in our business, just because I feel like it's just like too heavily concentrated, and I don't know. I feel like it was like years and years ago. I was just like, we're just gonna say it's never gonna happen. But conversely, she worked for my brother, and we were both perfectly fine with it.
Yeah.
And then even more recently, to your point about, like, there's something about trust. Like, the president we hired and the new CFO, COO we hired are both friends of mine. And there's just something about the honesty and trust, and that that you're on the same page, and it's not a personal not a personal thing or anything like that. And the sleep it gives me at night, just knowing that they're in it with me, is very helpful.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
Yeah, and same values, and that's huge.
Yep. All right. So we've talked about this too, but the third topic would be the complementary skill sets.
Yeah.
Obviously, Joe, you're the scientist. Lou, you're the CFO, numbers guy. Sounds like you guys have been able to separate duties for the most part. But like, where have you found, like, there's the obvious things of, you're mixing stuff in beakers and you're working on cash flow models or whatever, but like, when A and B come together, like, where have you seen them sort of like take off in terms of, holy cow, I never realized that if you combine these two pieces of expertise, where it could go, right? Like, in terms of like thinking about the future of your business model, or like even quantitatively, like, well, what if we did it this way? Would we be better off? Would the client be better off? Have you found any times that those two things have sort of combined together to be better than the sum of the parts, so to speak?
I think the combination it's far greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
I think I don't know, like, maybe it's an abstract example, but I find now that I trust that everything on the business end is handled, like, I can focus so much more, and I have zero concerns about anything going on, because like one of the biggest struggles of starting this thing is when everything is on your shoulders and you have to switch gears from actually doing the work, and then all this other crap that goes along with running a business that I don't really know very well or have good experience with. So yeah, and I think we do collaborate well. You know, like sometimes there'll be little arguments, here and there.
Yeah,
but generally speaking, like
you were just saying that the ability to focus is the benefit, rather than some symbiotic relationship between the two where you unpacked some like truth that you didn't know about in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, conversely though, I'm sure you looked at it and said, like, oh, maybe our contracts looked a certain way before, like, hey, what if we tinker around with it this way? Or
I think having an outside eye and someone that's seen a lot of different industries and then come and see like, hey, what are we doing? How are we operating? I think there's a lot of value in that. And I mean, and to elaborate, like from a financial standpoint, I probably spend 5% of my time doing anything financial related. Not like my role now, it's COO, CFO, CRO on the revenue side. So like I'm kind of doing anything related to growing our business in any capacity, and I kind of handle all of like the operations aspects, because we sell flavors as well. So like handling kind of all that in our facility, and we're getting all these certifications as well for our facility and things like that. So kind of handling all those items. Like the financial side is really kind of a pretty small piece, especially once you kind of start it and get it going. I think like there's more early, as John, you help a lot of businesses with this, but like once you kind of get it kicked off and going and set in the right way, some of that stuff, is a little bit easier to maintain. But I would say I spend the majority of my time now as kind of more of a COO, I would say, and chief revenue, so helping on the sales side of things. So really, and then also just kind of helping with the overall, project management of, because we're largely, it's a, project based type of work. So just making sure, hey, we've got the right resources in the right places from not only on a day-to-day basis, but just from an overall standpoint.
Yep, that's great. Yeah, I mean, even just bringing it back to sort of what we do, I cite this all the time, but Wall Street Journal came out with an article, I think it was in like January of 2020 or 21, can't remember, where we talked about like the percentage of CFOs that had their CPA designation in the Fortune 1000 was down to 32%, I think it was.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
At the time. And it's like, accounting is really important, and financial reporting is really important, and getting those things established is really important, but it's not the only thing, right? So like when we talk about our services, particularly on the CFO side, we're talking about strategy, finance, operations. Sort of like, what are the numbers telling us? How do we make it better? Kind of thing. So I totally agree with you that, it's a holistic thing. And if you look at a business, IT, marketing, R&D, operations, sales, human resources, whatever it might be, I talk about this all the time, but everything has dollar signs attached to it. And so ultimately it all goes through that system, because inevitably R&D wants a larger share of those dollars, and sales wants a larger sale, those dollars. And so being able to kind of craft that in a way that everybody is succeeding, from a finance perspective is ultimately part of the CFO's job too.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, great. Last thing I wanted to hit on, I know we've known each other for a long time. I grew up in the mean streets of Itasca.
Yeah, I-town.
And you guys, I know, grew up in a similar context to me, very loved, by our parents, very loving families, but, we worked hard, you know what I mean? And it, that was the expectation. That was like sort of the standard, like, I don't know any other way than working hard and grinding. And I mean, I was just kind of curious throughout your journey or even now, like, do you feel like that's set you up in some ways to be successful as an entrepreneur or as just a professional? Like, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah.
To go. Oh, 100%. I knew it was going to be hard to start this.
Yeah.
But it was, I basically made a conscious choice, like over the last 3 years, basically, to focus on work and my kids.
Yep.
And that was it. And it, and in some ways, I think it was to my detriment. Because, it's important to have a holistic life where you're spending time, with friends and family and, doing that kind of stuff. But I like went down like a rabbit hole of, it was just like, I was working all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why, like, I do have a newfound respect for entrepreneurs now, having done it myself. Cause like you would always hear people, oh, like, it's such hard work. It's like, well, no, it really is. Like, if you're going to be successful.
Yes.
But yeah, well, I mean, really, that's been one of the biggest benefits to having, Lou and I joining forces here is like, I got my life back.
Yeah.
And I'll always be indebted to you for that.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
But
no, go ahead, Lou.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it starts with the foundation, like, growing up in a family. Our dad was a firefighter. Mom worked hard as well, and was an X-ray tech originally, and now she's in real estate. But yeah, like that. If you woke up, you didn't feel great in the morning. Maybe it's generational too, but it's like, no, you're going to school. Like, you're going. Like, this is what you do every day. You work up, you get up, you work hard, and it's for me. I mean, even going back to high school, like, I used to get annoyed when people would be like, hey, you're smart, and I'd be like, no, dude, I just worked harder than you too.
Yeah.
So like having, obviously it's table stakes to be, have some talent, of course, but like what sets you apart is like how hard you work. And that goes all the way back. And it's just having a pride in whatever you do. It's like, no, I'm never going to be outworked by anybody. I'm going to work as hard as I can on everything. I never want to look back and be like, damn, if I would have worked a little bit harder, like I could have done better. I could have got that job, or I could have done better at this job, or, done these things in my life. So it's critical. And, like you never kind of go home until the work is finished,
Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I think that part is the innate piece.
Yeah.
Like maybe even at the heart of like what makes an entrepreneur and how much of that is innate. It's like just having the drive to like do the work to get the job done and don't stop until it is done.
Don't be satisfied.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, I think that carries. I agree. It is an innate thing that's in you. It's just like you got to have the motor. I mean, if you think about whether it be college or for your first job, your second job, or whatever, the people that rise to the top, right?
Yeah.
In any profession, and we all worked in different places, and we all saw the people that started separating themselves from, the groups and whatever, and the universal traits were obviously they were smart. That's the whatever. But what else did you see? They were relatable. Yeah. They were fun, right? Yeah. And they worked hard. Yeah. And their work was done very well. You know what I mean? And you just can't, and that's why even with our kids now, and I was laughing as Lou was talking because I'm thinking about me and him coaching 11-year-old girls in softball.
Nice.
Having the two of us.
Where is your innate work ethic?
Yeah, where is that work ethic? Let's go.
Yeah.
20 push-ups now. No.
We've grown over the years though, John. I think I made that comment to you the other day. I was like, John, a few years back, we would have never let this slide. And that's a couple of things that were going on in practice, but we're like, all right, we're more chill now.
Yeah, more chill now that they're 11.
Yeah, exactly.
Back when they were 8, they were slackers. No, yeah. Oh gosh, it's so funny. But anyway, I love that part of, my story, your story, and there's just, there's no replacement for being willing and able to do the hard work.
Yeah, and just rolling up the sleeves and doing the work that a lot of other people aren't willing to do, don't want to do, and just being willing to do anything. And then some of that is just like people have like a certain like thought of themselves, like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, but it's like that willingness to be like, I'll do any work. I don't care if I'm cleaning the toilet out. Like if it needs to be done, like I'm going to do it. Like somebody's got to do it. And having that mindset that you're not above anything, nobody's above anything,
right?
And not feeling like you're better than others or something like that.
Yeah, and more than just like hard work itself, it's also just like pride in your work.
Yep.
So like like we do great work because I could let a sample out the door after a couple days of work, but if I know like that's representing our company,
Yep.
So that like there is this kind of maniacal perfectionism that also I think entrepreneurs can have.
Yep, I talked about this actually this morning.
Yeah,
and it's a reference to a local coach here in town that I heard say this to the group of parents. It was the end of season basketball banquet, and she's a very well known coach in actually volleyball. But anyway, going down a rabbit hole here. But she said something to me that struck a nerve. She said, "I hate losing more than I love winning." And I was like thinking to myself, I'm like, that's it. That competitive edge, like that the ability, like I cannot lose. I cannot, you know what I mean? I cannot, like you said, let a sample go out the door without knowing that it's fully me and I've given it my best. And so
that's true. Yeah, because occasionally we're in a competitive situation on projects, and whenever we are, like, we just go nuts, like just get after it. Like we're gonna crush the competition, and I
love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was super insightful, but you're not off the hook yet.
Okay.
So thank you guys for sharing your story. I think people are going to get a ton out of it.
Yeah. Thanks for
We have 3 fun questions. Your answers do not have to be the same, just to be clear.
Okay.
I know you guys are brothers and colleagues. They can be the same, but they don't have to be. Top 3 rock and roll bands of all time. Now, I know you guys are rock and rollers probably, but if you're like, hey, I'd rather do movies or books or whatever, you're welcome to.
Mr. Frontman over here.
I know Mr. Frontman has got a few bands and it's cute.
Frontman. Yeah.
All right, so I know you're jumping out of your seat right now, so let's
I think
top 3.
I think this is a no-brainer. Like, I don't even think there should be a dispute about this.
Okay.
It's clearly Beatles, Led Zeppelin, and Rolling Stones. And then there's like a massive drop off to everyone else.
Okay.
I got one to add. I'm not. Beatles, great band, obviously. Stones and Led are definitely top 3 for me. I have a dark horse number 3. Not that much of a dark horse in it, but technically maybe it's not even a band. But I'm gonna go Jimi Hendrix. A little Jimmy experience. A person, kind of a band though. I mean, it's the same genre. So I'm gonna go with that for my number 3.
Who is he replacing though? Out of your
the Beatles from yours.
The Beatles?
Yeah.
Come on.
You can't replace the Beatles.
The Beatles are great. They're just not my favorite band.
Yeah. I think about the Beatles because they were the inspiration for so many others after them. Yeah. So, but you could also go down a rabbit hole there on Elvis Presley and that kind of thing too. But
he's up in the top 5, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how connected it is.
Yeah. You could do a post-90s one too. Would be interesting because then you can remove some of the oldies. But
John, what do you think of that? My top 3.
I was just about to say I have to go back and listen to myself do this, but I think that I said the same 3.
Yeah.
I know Stones. I know Stones and Beatles for sure, and I'm pretty sure I said Led Zeppelin is number 3. So we have unity.
Yeah. There we go.
On this topic.
There we go.
Which annual holiday is the best one?
I'm gonna go.
Well, you guys are brothers, so
Yeah.
don't say the wrong one
No,
on this
yeah.
one.
I try to go out of town for a couple nowadays. I'm gonna go. I love the summer holidays personally, so I'm gonna go 4th of July, maybe, and especially here in town is a good one in
Yes.
Glen Ellen. But a dark horse for me would be Memorial Day. It's like the kickoff of summer. It's a great holiday.
You're welcome
like
for having it off the softball season.
Yes, thank you, John.
Yeah, you're
Appreciate that, bud.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man, I don't know about Memorial Day and 4th of July. Very patriotic of you.
I love
Yeah.
I love America.
Yeah. No, I love those holidays, but I can't, again, I'm going to take a firm stance. Like, it's Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, like, well, it's
Yeah.
a whole freaking season.
Yeah.
It's like beyond just a day.
Yeah. I love all the holidays, but
Like, when was the last 4th of July movie?
Kind of like my Jimmy. Everyone says Christmas. I just wanted to say
Independence Day.
something a little bit
Yeah,
different.
Yeah.
deviate from the path
Yeah,
of
it's
Christmas.
almost to be besides Christmas. What's the best holiday?
I thought about that too.
So what's your second favorite?
Halloween?
All right. See, there you go. Now you can add some variety.
So there are people that are
Halloween. Jesus.
super
What's
into
wrong with you?
Halloween. Yeah,
It's fun.
you're one of those.
Yeah.
Well,
You're one of
Christmas is clearly, the top one. But if I had to go beyond that, Halloween.
That's an interesting call.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that
Safe
every day.
place.
Not going to get that.
Not
At
gonna
a
get
safe
that one.
place.
Here's an interesting one. If you weren't doing what you're currently doing for work,
Mhm.
something completely unrelated that you could see yourself enjoying and thriving in.
Besides pro baseball.
Pro baseball, rock and roll. And what do you think?
You want to go first? I have
No, yeah, I guess I got one.
All right.
What when I was younger, I always wanted I wanted to go to actually West Point for a long time,
Okay.
be in the military. So I submitted all my things to West Point, my scores, but then I decided not to do it. But I always thought it'd be
could
cool
see
to
that.
do. I'm a big history guy.
History.
Yeah, and I like
Yeah.
Patriotic,
military.
obviously.
I love America and the military. So that would be mine.
Meaning
Yeah,
like
make
a
a career out of it.
lifelong career
Lifelong.
out of
Career.
the military. Okay.
Yeah.
I
General
could see
Schwarzkopf.
you doing that actually. Storming
Lieutenant Colonel Nathan Jessup.
That's right. That's right. That could be me. We beat you on that wall.
Yeah. And yourself?
It's a tough one, but a big part of me always thought I would be a good doctor.
Ooh.
Just with because it's a blend. Like I mean, I got into this because I love science,
Yep.
and chemistry and all that stuff. So I think that medicine. I just didn't want to go to school that long, but I think I would have enjoyed like the interpersonal connections. Like helping people. Like that's one of the biggest things I like about our company is we're genuinely helping our customers sometimes achieve their dreams. In addition to just launching a product, like it's so there is like a real strong connection there. And I think being a doctor would be a cool way to help people with science.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good.
Chemistry.
I could totally see it. Well, thank you again to you guys for being on here. I think it was very informative. Exactly what we look for here, inspiring. So thank you guys for being here. Wish you guys the best of luck, obviously, and we'll be in touch.
Absolutely. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for having us.
Thanks,
John.
Joe.
Thank
It's
you,
a
John.
pleasure.
Thank you. Yep.